This is day 1273 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. And I'm still in the middle of the war, and this Arukh HaShulchan limud should be Maschos for the soldiers, the hostages, and Kolam Chabeis Yisrael. Today we're doing Yeridea, Simon Kuf Tzadi, Sip Kuf Dalet, Kuf Yud Aleph. Kuf Dalet. Therefore, this seems the primary way of reading. Even she knows from whom she took the garment, I'm not concerned it was brought beforehand. Was that a Shabbat time? This works well with the reasoning, the principle that we always only hear by Ksami. Even though normally, by all halakha matters, wherever we can clarify, we clarify. Okay. Nevertheless, that's not the case by states. They say that the Beis Yosef had an incorrect version of Torah Sabayis. It certainly grows for any Yodas Milakachto that she doesn't know from whom she took it. The Yodas, because if she knows, she's got to ask about for the person whom she borrowed the garment. Just like Chometz in a house which is was already checked. In the Baal Bas's home, you have to confirm that with him. It's a Sidrei Tara. Daiti says, in my opinion, have a hipuch. It's the exact opposite. Because otherwise, why would you have to invoke the leniency of Kesamim? El Vari Kamosh Kasam must be therefore, like we wrote, the Zel Ikar Pusa Shein Tzircha Lishoel Me'amukar. She doesn't have to ask from, I don't know, it's Mukeres or Mocheres. Mocheres. Okay, the seller. So she doesn't have to ask the seller. And that seems to be the primary halacha. It says that in brackets it seems to be the case from the Shach. Kuf hey, Lashon Torah Kenu. This language of the Torah ain't Isha. Woman doesn't come tummy on account of the stain she finds unless the garment was checked before she put it on. But if she took a garment from the market, and she put it on without checking, and she found in it a stain, tahora, she's tar. This is what the Beis Yosef writes. She doesn't come to me with a kesem unless the garment she's wearing she was checked beforehand. If it wasn't checked beforehand, and she wore it without checking, and she found it a stain, Torah, she's Torah. Means Torah. Yesh loving, we have to understand. He says he didn't include the case of buying a garment from the market. It's Kavachomer from Eino Baduk. If Eino Baduk, we can assume was would be attributed the kesem to it. So certainly a garment she bought. But why in the Torah bring down the scenario of Eino Baduk, which is a greater chiddush? So Ocean says, since the Torah wrote, unless it was checked, automatically, the flip side is the Bein Baduk, Ein Bo Shum Kesed, it wasn't Baduk, there is no issue of Ksomim. And in the garment which she takes from the market, Mashmin Rabusa, it is telling us a Chiddush, you don't have to ask the seller. Like we wrote in as the Rashba, is the intent of the Rashba. But Darko Katzer. The derech of the Torah is to be brief. Since he doesn't write that she has to ask, it's right that she doesn't have to ask. Because it stains are lean as we wrote. But they asked them their words. They hold that when she checks with even with an H in a baduk, she's tamei if there's a gris plus blood. In kelama kilukam in a baduk. So why do they make it here, where it's not checked? I've seen if we're not makel by a gris, by an eight shein baduk. Why make her by a gris by a garment shein baduk? Therefore, there's one who wants to say this not checked over here. It's not comparable to which we had previously. And this which broke it's specifically when she bought it from the marketplace. Unless she checked it prior to wearing it. Only means to say that it was assumed to be checked. Even though it's an assumption that it's checked, the Gemara calls it Ein Baduk. What does that mean? It means that it's not something which is cheskas baduk, which is assumed to be literally checked. So the doctor would be sure that she checked it before putting it on. This is very difficult and very hard to sustain for several reasons. That is the Taz he's arguing on. And the Sidrei Tara already argues on the Taz. But the truth is, there is a distinction. When you check with an H in a baduk, with the b'dikah was not pre-checked, like as an itzah was stain which is found. Right writes explicitly the by a garment that wasn't checked at all before she put it on. And boding something doesn't have can't become tum. A kesem there is not going to make a tummy. Avala aid, but the b'dikah cloth came with shebatkabo. She checked herself with it. Have it's strong evidence. And all you need in order to become tomei is a gris plus. That it shouldn't be the blood of a bed bug. Came with a baduk because it was not checked. But if it has a gris plus, tomei mishum kesem is tomei account of kesem. As opposed to when she finds a stain on her garment. It must be that it was checked before she put it on. Does a feel baharbi amim yesh botin kesem? Then even she went many days after she checked, it still says a kesem. It still has a status of being susceptible to tamei via ksamim. But if it was not checked at all, such as the garment was in a place which was not safe, or she bought it very recently from the marketplace and she hasn't yet checked it. Aimbo cloud din kusamim. There's no parameters of kusamim here at all. We say that the stain was already there for some reason. I feel it doesn't make a good start, even if 200 degrees it's tar. Most of them agreed with this. Brings down here the Bach, the Shach, Sidrei Tara, and the Crazy Placey. Now we found a great fix for Jewish daughters when they're involved with issues of stains. Most women they don't check their garments and their sheets before they put them on. And they just put it on when they become laundered without checking. So that's the case. There's no concept of chaluk habaduk for most women. We can't go to Echel Migdalim. In the Crazy Place, he writes this. Arukh HaShulchan says, this is a big kula. The achreshin is kapsu, after it's laundered, and it came out clean. And it was in a safe place. He says, it certainly would call be Baruch, according to Rashba, and he's dubious about the case you place his head there. Kufches, Kos Rabbeinu Abis Yosef. To see men. Barka Chaluka Pashtato. She checked the garment and removed it. Matzah Torah and she found it was tar. He shil chabayet, and she loaned it to a friend, and the friend wore it. And she found a stain. Are we showing it to Torah? The first girl is tar, but she has a man. The second one is tamei. It would seem that there's no chiddush here. My commercial. It's coming to tell us. Portion. So he says, "V'nira darbusu." It seems like the chiddush is the law mean came into shnila barka ba'atzma. Since that the second woman did not check herself, she's relying on the checking of the first woman. Now, let's consider the garment vis-a-vis her. Can't be the clouds if it's not checked at all. And therefore not susceptible to ksamim. As we said, so it comes to tell us the checking of the first girl is effective also for the second one. Effective here in this case means to a detriment. And he says the brackets, it seems that way from Torah's bikes. V'okamashman also is going to tell us the Alpha Gavlinian moment, even though in terms of monetary obligation, who has to pay to launder the stain? The second one to say, the first one, I don't believe you that there was no stain. I'm not required to launder it. Nevertheless, in terms of Isser, she's prohibited. Barak Mamon, only money the Rishona can't get from the Shnia. Because in order to extract money, you have the definite proof, and she has no definite proof. It's enough evidence that the second woman should be Torah, but not a Tmeah, but not enough evidence for the first one to extract money from her. Kuftes. That literally that which the Beis Yosef wrote that she checked her garment and removed it. Matzah Torah and she found it's Torah. B'havale michtav pashtaso badka. They should have said mitzvah. She found it. Should have said pashtaso ubadka. She checked. Chuli. Kasha dafka she acholuk baduk nikorim alavisha. So therefore, it's going to tell us that this garment was checked before she put it on. Because otherwise, even if she finds a kesem, it's tar, like a choluk which is not checked. That's the two men we wrote in Barka Chaluka Levashto. If she checked the garment and wore it, Pashtas and took it off, Umitzoa tar, and she found tar, Vishila Chule, and she loaned it. The Tarcho Rabbin Lama Lo Habdiko Shkorim Abisha. Many people have a difficulty. Why does it require a bedika before Levisha? Amzel Kavanaso. What does it mean? Kechel having Chaluk Baduk. In order that it should be a checked garment. And he says in brackets, this is what the Shach meant, and the Farshia Tour just tried to explain them with, and it was unnecessary. It says she checked herself and her garment. But why should she have to check her body? Some people say that it's enough to check the body, even though she didn't check the garment. Because we assume she's Torah. So also in this scenario, only the second one is Tomei. Because she checked. Okay, again, this is the second one, it's check. So the first Shulchan Aruch said, whoa, Chagam the stained males. In this case, both of them should be Tomei. The B'ksami Lomi Akanim Tzokan Hoya Ayin Sham. By saying we don't say, you found it here, it occurred here. If she only checked before, no, she only checked her garment. No, she only checked her body. So some people, as we said it's not even though she didn't check her garment, because it has cheskas tara, but, and The Shulchan Aruch says no, they're both tummy. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm getting this. She only checked the body. She checked the body afterwards. She checked the body afterwards. She found she's tar. Doesn't do any good because the kesem was on the garment, and she should have checked the garment. Checking herself doesn't do any good. So therefore, evidently, checking, even though the Beis Yosef wrote that but pashtasa matzah tahira, right? Which sounds like there is no check after the necessary after the first one wears it. No, if he doesn't, she doesn't check it, and even she checks her body, but doesn't check the garment. So when the garment comes up with stain later on, they're both tamei misofik. The bracket says, still, she can't extract money. Even though, because she didn't check it before she gave the second woman. Rambam Naka Lashon Shas Kedarka B'Chodesh. Rambam goes according to the language of the Gemara. Kufiyot Kishem Shetolim B'Ksamim, just like we attribute by Ksamim as Esem Kesem, the stain itself Sheish Mameli. That's when we had Kesem, we can attribute it to Kamochen Tolik Kesem Zu B'Zu. Therefore, they can each push up the kesem to the other one, each of the two women. Imrakev Shalom Arkain, Kamoshi's bar, if it's possible to say, as we shall see in the next sif. It's only when the second woman is not going to get ruined that we assume the stain came from her. Such as when she's tummy anyway. And the first one gets fixed by that. It's like Zen and Ebezel Choser, right? Without this, she would be Torah. The woman who's Mesukan, who's fixed, is Torah in the woman who's ruined. It's very like the Torah in Simon Kuf Yud Aleph with two kupos. They're both Torah, or both Torah, ain't Torah Zebuzu. They can't attribute the other one. Why should you tell me one and tie the other one? Therefore, they're both Torah, Moshi's bars will be clarified later in this sermon. The din is not because of the leniency of Ksamim. That's true. But you always say Rabban, it's like that. I just mentioned it's a way of two parts. One permitted, one forbidden. Two pieces fell, one forbidden and one permitted. One to each one. If the Isser is a rabbinic prohibition, we attribute the Usser one to the Usser, to say the Usser piece fell to the Usser bat, and the Mutter piece fell to the Mutter bat. Here the same thing if it's possible to say it. Kuvirav, Ketzad, how so? Kigon, love shel chalukah badukla. She wore a garment which she had checked. Upashtaso, but then she took it out without of lobadux and didn't check it. B'shes chulukah says and she loaned it to another Jewish girl who is Tan Anida. Or the kutis, or to a non-Jewish girl, Shagias Manli Rose, who already is a time when she's already having a cycle. And she sees once. Even though while she was wearing the garment, the second girl didn't see anything, we only found this stain afterwards. Tola Behan, she can attribute it to the Israelis Nida or to the Kutis. Vitor and she's Torah. V'wadin lefach, the opposite is true as well. Shebarka chaluk, if she checked it, she'll also la nida and loan it to a nida or la kutis or to a non-Jewish girl. Karkel vashto he below dika, and since she took it from them and wore it without dika, kar matzoleh kesem, and she found a stain at tolaben, she can attribute it to them. She told them she attributes them lo shalem he Torah gemor. It doesn't matter if she's completely Torah or shemenes b'shivas shinakim or she's in the middle counting shinakim. Even if the one was kind of Shemnikim, this woman is still superior, so to speak, because right now she's Torah. Ramah writes the base which we're going to learn in Kuf Tzad Vav the Kesi Yoser Mikaris ain't told in Shloshim Rishon Shal Sfira, a stain which is more than the gris. We don't attributed to somebody else during the first 3 days of Shiva Nikim. You can't be toilet in the other one if she's in her Shiva Nikim in the first 3 days. I read it wrong before. The Torah Gemura and even women's kind of Shiva Nikim are in a superior position to Israelis Nida or non-Jew. So therefore, even since we're counting Shiva Nikim, we still say that she is Tahora and the other one is Tamea, but not during the first 3 days. In bracket says, Agam b'shein adam Hashem, it's not, even though it's not comparable, because here it's universal Rabbanon leniency, Losim call to say that the Issa went to the Asr, nevertheless came into the time Sham, Mishum the Amayim, Adayim Pasuach. The logic is that the blood is still flowing. So therefore, we're not telling that as well. Yeah, that's l'chein in mind. It's the first 3 days, right? So there, it's a different scenario. It's a separate reason that we ask it. Nevertheless, l'chein gam zeh tolen therefore we're not toilah. And the first 3 days, but anyway, he's going to come back to it later on.